I am feeling two emotions right now. Can I tell you what they are? The number one, anyone else feeling exhausted at this point? Anyone else feel like we have been so full that this has been an amazing time? But the second thing that I think is a greater emotion that actually is way bigger than the feeling of fatigue that perhaps some of us are feeling right now is a feeling of incredible inspiration. Anyone else feeling inspired? Coming to the final rundown here. This has been awesome. And I also, Jed, huge respect to you. Thank you for the way that you have led so incredibly well for all of us. Thank you for the work that you do. This is a time that I tell you, I love what I do in my day job. I love that I work with an organization that invests in families around the world. I love the microfinance, microenterprise development model, but I can tell you there's something I love way more than what I do, and that is what we do together. Anyone else feel like we've got a glimpse, not just to our little organizations, but a glimpse to the fact that we've got a really big family, and this is an awesome family doing awesome work around the world. And I love that we get to be here for just a couple days together, feeling full, feeling inspired for the work that God has called us to do. But today I thought it would be fun, just one idea. Here's the idea. The idea is this. I've been thinking about this good work that we've been doing. I've been thinking about all of us together. And I was asking a question, what could undermine this good work? If we're really honest, what is the one thing that could really knock us off these missions that God has given us to do? And I thought that would be something that I would want to share. What is it that can get us off track with the good work that God has called and equipped us to do? And I thought back about a time when I was living in Rwanda. I was living in Rwanda, and after a few years of being there, there was a volcano that erupted, and it erupted across the border in the Democratic Republic of Congo. It was Mount Nyiragongo, and in a very short amount of time, lava poured out of the crater, and it was a slow-moving lava, and it poured down into the city of Goma, causing 400,000 people to flee their homes. And as they fled, they took their most precious possessions with them. They put them on their heads, and they walked across. And my wife and I, feeling that there's need and we're supposed to respond, we drove to the border trying to ask a simple question: what do we do to help? We were assigned to a refugee camp, and we found that the elevation was higher. We found that it was the rainy season, and we saw that individuals were cold. And so we ended up buying blankets locally. We were about to give them away when we had an unexpected conversation. It was another organization, it was a larger organization that came to us and said, "You're not allowed to give away your blankets." And I remember feeling a bit conflicted, because here's a need. We can respond in such a way. We were ready to give them away. But what shocked me even more is when we heard the reason we were not allowed to give away the blankets. And the reason was because there was a news crew that was coming with CNN that was going to tell the story of this refugee camp. And they thought that if people already had blankets, it would not look as good to the external audience. Now, maybe it's just because we had been sleeping on the floor, but I was angry. How dare you use people in their moment of greatest need for your own story? There's something in me that knew in the very core of who I am that that's not okay to tell someone else's story in such a way that makes you look good and yet is actually not with a root of love. That is a phony expression of Christian love, and it sickened me, and it made me angry. Now, the world has a pretty short attention span. The world turns its attention to other parts of the world. There was no news crew, and eventually my wife and I were able to be on stage and be able to give away our blankets. We had partnered with the Red Cross at that point. We had gotten the names of individuals, and we were able to respond with the love of Jesus to individuals in their moment of need. Individuals, as they were walking through, were able to receive simple things that were going to help. My friend Michael took a camera, and as he took his camera, he started snapping pictures. He saw one individual that had the right look, and he asked him to walk through the line 3 times, and I smiled wide. What it had been so easy to critique in the other organization was right here. I was doing the same thing. I was using the individual in front of me to tell my story. I was waiting for people to see this picture of a masculine Mother Teresa at home, looking at this good humanitarian do-gooder, and it was without a heart of love for the person that was in front of me. And it was the same thing that was so easy to critique in another. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where you're waiting to look at the pictures, waiting to get them back. You think it's going to be this good picture of the beach, and it actually looks more like something like that. Caught on film was the insincerity on my face that was thinking about people far away and not rooted in love. And here's my belief. For the adoption world, for the foster care world, for the orphan movement, for all of us, it is really hard for us to make sure we do not make ourselves the center of our story. Moses, as he was walking through this greatest rescue, the moment of time, he was not thinking about how he looked as he walked through the Red Sea. He was not stopping to capture a selfie at this moment. He was thinking about the God who did this rescue. For all of us, the question is, how do we really make sure that we do not make this about us? How do we make sure that people do not see us and the good works? How do we make sure people don't even see our organizations? They see Jesus in this work that we do. Eugene Peterson says it this. He says, we've all met a certain type of spiritual person. He's a wonderful person. He loves the Lord. He prays and reads the Bible all the time. But all he thinks about is himself. He's not a selfish person, but he's always at the center of everything he's doing. How can I witness better? How can I do this better? How can I take of this person's problem better? It's me, disguised in a way that is difficult to see because his spiritual talk disarms us. In the midst of doing great work, we can make it more about us. And self-centered service will inevitably undermine our impact. It will undermine our families, and it will undermine ourselves. I wanted to give you a self-diagnosis. I wanted to ask you 3 questions today to help us figure out how do we make sure that we are keeping Christ at the center of all of this really good work that you're doing. 3 questions. Number 1, what is your immediate reaction when other families, when other organizations seem to flourish? How do you respond when other organizations seem to be experiencing incredible blessing and you just aren't experiencing it right now? Now, right now, there's a hockey game going on, Predators versus the Blues. Right now, there's going to be one winner and there's going to be one loser. And I can tell you, if we bring that same competitive mindset into this work that we do, we are going to sabotage each other in this good work. There is not one winner and one loser in this work that we do. There is one family, and it is possible for us to cheer loudly when we see other families, other individuals, other organizations flourishing. What would happen if we would say, Hope International, we want to be the biggest cheerleaders for Show Hope, and Show Hope is going to be the biggest cheerleaders for Bright Hope, and Bright Hope is going to be the biggest cheerleaders for Hope Unlimited, and they're going to be the biggest for all the other hopes that are out there. There's so many hope organizations, and I think we should be cheering each other on instead of saying, why are they experiencing something we're not? Second question, to make sure that we knock ourselves off of center stage, how do we make sure that we are doing generosity and service in moments and times where no one knows what we did? When is the last time we did a tangible act of compassion or service, didn't post about it, didn't say it, didn't talk about it? Jesus talks a lot about secrecy. He talks a lot about doing things in secret. And in this world that we live, it is getting harder and harder for us to remember our primary audience is not our social media followers. Our primary audience is the Lord Jesus Christ, who sees all of the good that we do. And we want to make sure we get out of the way. When is the last time we did something good and didn't need to tell anyone about it? And the last, how do we respond when people look at the good work that you're doing and say, you are a good person? I believe these words are from a place of genuine kindness, but I believe that our response indicates where we are. Paul and Barnabas give us the most powerful example of how I hope we respond. They do this miracle, an individual is healed, and in Acts chapter 14, people want to praise Barnabas and Paul. They want to sacrifice to them, and do you remember the response? When the apostles Barnabas and Paul heard of this, they tore their clothes and rushed out into the crowd shouting, friends, why are you doing this? We too are only human like you. We are bringing you good news, telling you to turn from these worthless things to the living God who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and everything in them. Their response was dramatic. They literally tore their clothes because they said, I don't want you to see me. I want you to see the creator of heaven and earth. And my hope for you, my friends, my hope is this world is going to watch you doing crazy things that they don't understand and caring for kids around the world. And my hope is when they look at you and they say, aren't you doing good work, that you are going to do everything possible to say, don't see me. Let me point you to Jesus.